What's happening, everybody? This is Gayuka Musa, also known as Coach G, and I'd like to welcome you to this week's episode of The Friday Fix. Now, the title of this week's episode is Say What Now? Let me know if you've heard this before. Many relationships come to an end because people experience communication problems. Ever heard anything like that before? Of course, right? I mean, there's all kinds of websites and books and surveys and statistics and TV shows and articles and radio shows that talk about this all the time. They talk about people choosing to end their relationships because they're experiencing some kind of communication problem. It might be the lack of communication, it might be disrespectful communication or too many arguments, but we've all experienced that, right? I mean, many of my coaching clients have, I have, I'm sure you have. Now, this week's episode is about something you might be doing that may be decreasing the effectiveness of communication in your relationship, or it might be increasing the frequency in which you and your partner have arguments. So follow this scenario. You and your partner are having a conversation. And it's not a regular conversation. It's one of those difficult conversations, you know. And the reason it's difficult is not because the two of you are already arguing. It's because you're discussing a difficult topic, which that happens in conversations. So you're participating in this conversation. You're doing all the right things. You're trying to be present. You're listening because you really want to understand where your partner is coming from. But unfortunately, you're having a hard time understanding where they're coming from. You're having a hard time really appreciating their perspective. So you decide to do something about it. You say, okay, I'm going to ask questions because I really want to understand. I want to know why they feel or believe or what's going on. You know, I want to understand where they're coming from. So you ask a question like, why do you feel that way? Or why don't you give this a try? Or why do you think that? And as the conversation continues and as your partner answers these questions, you start to notice that things are changing. There's a shift that has happened. Something's going on. You know, the conversation feels a little different than it did when it first started. You know, your partner's demeanor has started to change. And before you know it, the conversation has gotten contentious. And you're like, say what now? Like, what the hell's going on here? And so this started out as a difficult conversation, but now you're in a place where the conversation has become one of those bad conversations where you and your partner are in a much worse place than you were when the conversation started. Now, what happened exactly? How did you get to this spot? You know, do you know what happened? Do you? Why happened? Now, think about this. When you start questions with the word why, you may not realize this, but there's something that gets communicated to your partner at that very moment you say the word why. It's like you're announcing to your partner that the answer that they provide you is going to be evaluated through the filter of right and wrong. You know, ultimately that you're going to be judging that answer. And people don't like to feel judged. Nobody likes to feel judged. And when people feel judged, they tend to respond to that, you know, because they feel like they're being attacked. So they usually respond in one or two ways. They go on the defensive, you know, they circle the troops, they kind of clam up, you know, they're preparing for that attack. They're not necessarily willing any longer to let you in and let you experience what they're feeling, what they're thinking. You know, they're really kind of closed. Or what they do is they go on the offensive and they figure since an attack is coming, I'm going to attack first, or maybe I'm going to attack harder, or I'm going to do something because I don't want to be injured and I got to protect myself. So people make those two choices, and what happens in relationships is you start to feel more disconnects or more arguments. Now, there's this quote from Mother Teresa that says, if you judge people, you have less time to love them. I mean, think about that. If you judge people, you don't have time to love them. And that's what happens in our relationships so often. You know, we spend time, you know, arguing and arguing about nothing. And it goes up and it escalates, and we waste all the opportunities that we have to really show and connect with someone and show them how much we love them. And so what I want you to do for this week's fix is I want you to say what now. Now I know you're like, Coach G, what are you talking about? So follow me here. There's going to be times this weekend and throughout the coming weeks where you're just going to be having regular conversations with your partner. And what I want you to do is, instead of starting some of those questions that you might routinely ask with the word why, I want you to start asking those questions and beginning those questions with the word what. Now, there's a big difference between what and why, and it may feel like it's just kind of a small, meaningless difference, but what communicates that you're seeking information. The word why communicates that you're not only seeking information, but you're looking to evaluate that information for right or wrongness, like we talked about earlier. So I want you to use the word what so that you don't put your partner on the defensive or on the offensive, and you let them know that you're really just wanting information. You're wanting to better understand. And here's another way to think about it. Right here I have a crescent wrench, and a crescent wrench is a great tool. I mean, I actually used it today on the tripod that's holding the camera. And I've used it to build furniture, and I used it on my bike over there, and it's a great tool. And this particular tool, it's got features. It says forged chrome vanadium on this side, and over here is extra strong. It's a great tool. It's got great features. But what I want you to do is imagine me trying to use this great tool to tighten the screw, the little tiny screw in my daughter's glasses, little tiny screw in the hinge. What if I try to use this to tighten it? Now, obviously that's not going to work, because this is not the right tool for that job. And that's what happens with the word why. Why is a great tool, but it's often not the right tool for the job that we're using it in. There are definitely times where you're going to feel that you need to leverage the need to evaluate the rightness or the wrongness of something that your partner brings that way by using the word why in a question. There are definitely going to be those times. But what I would argue is that most of the conversations you have with your partner, in most of those conversations, you're seeking information. You're actually going to be much better served to use the word what instead of the word why, because why is the wrong tool. So that's it for this week's fix. I'd love for you to share your comments below, and also let us know what kinds of things you'd like to see discussed on future episodes of the Friday Fix. And if you want to stay up to date on when new episodes are released, enter your name and email over on the right-hand side of the page so that you can be notified via email when new episodes of the Friday Fix are ready for you to view. And if you do that today, we'll send you a free copy of the ebook, 10 Relationship Questions People Should Ask Themselves But Rarely Do. And that'll be our gift to you just for signing up. So until next time, this is Coach G reminding you to free your mind so your life will follow. Take care of each other, all right?